The handcuffs clicked cold around Dr. Isaiah Bennett's wrists. He was still wearing his scrubs, still had a patient's blood on his sleeve, still had his hospital badge clipped to his chest, right there in plain sight. But none of that mattered. "You're under arrest," the officer said, pushing Isaiah's face against the patrol car. "I'm a doctor," Isaiah whispered, his voice shaking. "I work here. I just saved someone's life." "Save it for the station." The parking lot was full of people, nurses, patients, families, all of them watching, all of them filming, and Isaiah felt something break inside him that had nothing to do with the metal cutting into his skin. This wasn't supposed to happen to him. He'd done everything right. Medical school, residency, years of sacrifice. He'd earned respect. He'd earned safety. But in that moment, none of it protected him. Because the officers didn't see a doctor. They saw a black man in a parking lot, and that was all they needed. What happened next would shake an entire hospital to its core. It would expose secrets nobody wanted told. It would force a powerful CEO to make an impossible choice. And it would prove that sometimes the most dangerous place for a black man in America is simply being himself. Let me show you exactly how this happened. Isaiah Bennett didn't grow up rich. He grew up in South Memphis, where ambulances took too long and hospitals felt like distant fortresses. His mama cleaned those hospital floors for 20 years, came home every night with swollen feet and stories about doctors who never looked her in the eye. "One day," she'd tell little Isaiah, "you're gonna be the one they look up to." So he worked. Scholarship to college, loans for med school, sleepless nights studying while his friends were out living. He made it through, became a trauma surgeon, moved to this city, to Riverside General Hospital, to start fresh. 3 years in, Isaiah was one of their best. Patients requested him. Other doctors respected his hands in surgery. He was calm under pressure, brilliant with complex cases, and he treated every patient like family. But there was always this tension. The way security followed him in the halls sometimes. The way older white patients would ask, "Are you really the doctor?" The way nurses would double-check his orders, like maybe he'd made a mistake. Isaiah tried not to think about it. He focused on the work, on saving lives, on proving himself over and over and over again. That Tuesday started like any other. Isaiah came in for his shift at 6 a.m., checked on post-op patients, grabbed coffee, reviewed charts, normal routine. Then, around 2 p.m., everything changed. "Code Blue, Trauma Bay, Code Blue." A car accident victim, a young woman, maybe 19, bleeding out fast. Her name was Destiny. She had a collapsed lung, internal bleeding, and minutes to live. Isaiah moved like lightning. He intubated her, opened her chest right there in the trauma bay, found the bleed, stopped it with his bare hands while nurses scrambled around him. It took 40 minutes of the most intense surgery he'd ever performed outside an OR. But he did it. He saved her life. Destiny's mother arrived just as Isaiah was closing up. She grabbed his hands, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you. Thank you. Thank you." Isaiah smiled, exhausted. "She's strong. She's gonna make it." He walked out of that trauma bay feeling like a hero. 3 hours later, he'd be in handcuffs. Here's what happened in between. After surgery, Isaiah was covered in blood. He needed to change scrubs, but his locker was in his car. He'd forgotten to bring in a fresh pair that morning. So he walked out to the parking lot, still in his surgical scrubs, still wearing his badge, to grab clean clothes. The parking lot was busy, evening shift change, families visiting patients, the usual chaos. Isaiah popped his trunk, grabbed his gym bag with the clean scrubs inside. That's when he heard it. "Hey, hey, stop right there!" Isaiah turned. 2 police officers were walking toward him fast, hands on their belts, eyes locked on him like he was prey. "Put the bag down," one officer said. His name tag read, Officer Whitman. Isaiah's heart started pounding. "I'm sorry, what?" "Put the bag down." "I work here. Isaiah said, pointing to his badge. I'm Dr. Bennett. I just came out to... We got a call about a suspicious person in the parking lot. Someone matching your description. Isaiah felt cold. Suspicious? I'm in scrubs. I'm wearing my hospital ID. Sir, put the bag down and put your hands where I can see them. People were stopping now, watching. Isaiah could feel their eyes on him. He put the bag down slowly. This is a misunderstanding, Isaiah said, keeping his voice calm even though panic was rising in his chest. Call the hospital. Call my supervisor. I'm a surgeon here. But Officer Whitman wasn't listening. He grabbed Isaiah's arm, spun him around, and slammed him against his own car. What are you doing? Isaiah shouted. Stop resisting! I'm not... The second officer grabbed Isaiah's other arm, yanking it behind his back. The handcuffs went on. Tight. Too tight. Isaiah's badge fell to the ground. I'm a doctor, Isaiah said again, louder this time. I just saved someone's life in there. Call the hospital. We'll sort it out at the station, Whitman said. A crowd had formed. Nurses, visitors. Someone was filming on their phone. One nurse, Sarah, who worked with Isaiah every day, pushed through the crowd. Wait, that's Dr. Bennett. He works here. Ma'am, step back. No, you don't understand. He's a trauma surgeon. He just came out of surgery. Ma'am, I won't ask again. Step back. Sarah's voice cracked. You're arresting a doctor in front of his own hospital. But they weren't stopping. They walked Isaiah toward the patrol car, his head down, his heart breaking with every step. This was his worst nightmare, being treated like a criminal, in front of his colleagues, in front of his hospital, in scrubs still stained with the blood of the patient he'd just saved. Isaiah felt tears burning his eyes, but he refused to let them fall. Not here, not in front of them. They shoved him into the back of the car. The door slammed shut. And through the window, Isaiah could see the crowd growing. Phones out, faces shocked, some angry, some scared. And then he saw her, Destiny's mother, the woman whose daughter he'd just saved. She was standing at the edge of the crowd, her hand over her mouth, tears in her eyes. She'd watched them arrest the man who'd saved her daughter's life. Isaiah closed his eyes. But if you think that was heartbreaking, wait until you see what came next. Inside that patrol car, Isaiah's mind was racing. This couldn't be real. This couldn't be happening. He'd heard stories. Every black person in America had. Stories about being in the wrong place, looking the wrong way, existing while black. But Isaiah had always told himself he was different. He was educated, respected, a doctor. He thought that would protect him. Now he knew better. Officer Whitman climbed into the driver's seat. The engine started. Why are you doing this? Isaiah asked quietly. No answer. Someone called about a suspicious person? What does that even mean? Suspicious for being black in a parking lot? Whitman glanced in the rearview mirror. A nurse reported seeing someone breaking into cars. You matched the description. Isaiah's blood went cold. What description? Black male, dark clothing, medium build. That's not a description. That's just black. You arrested me for being black. We're responding to a call. I was wearing scrubs, with a hospital badge, getting clothes from my own car. How is that breaking in? Whitman said nothing. Isaiah leaned forward as much as the handcuffs would allow. My keys are in my pocket. Check them. One of them opens that car, because it's my car. We'll verify everything at the station. No, Isaiah said, his voice breaking. You'll verify it now. Call the hospital. Ask for Dr. Okafor, the chief of surgery. Ask for anyone in trauma. They know me. But the car was already moving. Isaiah watched his hospital disappear through the back window. The place he'd given 3 years of his life. The place where he'd saved hundreds of lives. And they were taking him away in handcuffs. Back at the hospital, chaos was erupting. Sarah, the nurse who'd tried to intervene, ran straight to the trauma department. She found Dr. Okafor, Isaiah's mentor and the chief of surgery, reviewing charts. "They arrested Dr. Bennett," she said, breathless. Dr. Okafor looked up. "What?" "Police. In the parking lot. They arrested him. They think he was breaking into cars." "Isaiah? Isaiah Bennett?" "Yes." Dr. Okafor's face went hard. "Where did they take him?" "I don't know. They put him in a car and left." Within minutes, the entire hospital was buzzing. Doctors were furious. Nurses were in tears. Security was scrambling to pull parking lot footage, and someone called the CEO. Martin Hale was in a board meeting when his phone rang. He almost didn't answer, but something told him to pick up. "Mr. Hale, we have a serious situation." Martin Hale was a white man in his late 50s. He'd been CEO of Riverside General for 8 years. He ran a tight ship. He cared about numbers, outcomes, reputation. But he also cared about his people, and Isaiah Bennett was one of his best. "What situation?" Hale asked. "The police arrested Dr. Bennett in our parking lot 30 minutes ago. They think he was breaking into cars. But, sir, he was just getting clothes from his own vehicle. He was in scrubs. He had his badge. They arrested him anyway." Hale felt something hot and sharp rise in his chest. "They arrested one of my surgeons? In our parking lot?" "Yes, sir." "Where is he now?" "We don't know. They took him." Hale stood up so fast his chair fell back. "Get me the name of every officer involved. Get me the precinct and get my car. Now." His assistant hesitated. "Sir, maybe we should call our legal team first." "Now!" Within 10 minutes, Martin Hale was in his car, driving toward the police station. His hands were shaking on the wheel, not from fear, from rage. He'd spent years building a hospital where everyone was supposed to be safe, where everyone was supposed to be treated with dignity, and the police had just violated that on his property. They'd arrested a man who'd just saved a life, and that man was black. Hale knew what this was. He wasn't naive. He'd seen the statistics, read the reports, attended the diversity trainings, but this was different. This was his hospital, his doctor, his responsibility, and he was about to make some people very uncomfortable. Just when it seemed all hope was lost, something incredible happened. At the police station, Isaiah sat in an interrogation room, still in handcuffs, still in his scrubs. The blood on his sleeve had dried now, turning brown. Nobody had spoken to him in 40 minutes. He'd asked for a phone call. They ignored him. He'd asked for water. They ignored him. He'd explained who he was, where he worked, what had happened. They wrote it down and walked away. Isaiah had never felt so small, so powerless. He thought about his mama, about what she'd say if she could see him now. Would she be ashamed? Heartbroken? Angry? He thought about Destiny, the girl he'd saved. Was she okay? Were the other doctors checking on her? Or were they too busy dealing with the chaos he'd left behind? The door opened. A detective walked in. Older white man, tired eyes. He sat down across from Isaiah with a folder. "Dr. Bennett," he said. Isaiah looked up, surprised. "You know who I am?" "I do now." The detective opened the folder. "We pulled the parking lot footage, verified your vehicle registration, called the hospital. You're exactly who you say you are." Isaiah felt something crack inside him, relief and fury. "So you're letting me go?" "Yes." "Just like that?" "Yes." Isaiah leaned forward. "Do you understand what you did? You arrested me, in front of my colleagues, my patients. You handcuffed me like a criminal. You put me in a car. You brought me here. And for what? For going to my own car?" The detective sighed. "We were responding to a call about a black man existing. That's what you responded to. Look, I understand you're upset." "Upset?" Isaiah's voice rose. "I saved a girl's life today. I held her heart in my hands. I brought her back from the edge of death. And 3 hours later, I'm in handcuffs because someone saw a black man and assumed the worst. The detective didn't have an answer for that. We'll remove the handcuffs. You're free to go. No charges. No charges, Isaiah repeated bitterly. How generous. They removed the cuffs, gave him back his belongings, apologized in that empty way people apologize when they don't really mean it. Isaiah walked out of that police station into the parking lot. And that's when he saw him. Martin Hale, his CEO, standing next to his car, arms crossed, face like thunder. Isaiah stopped. "Mr. Hale?" "Get in," Hale said. Isaiah climbed into the passenger seat, confused, exhausted, humiliated. Hale didn't start the car right away. He just sat there, hands on the wheel, staring straight ahead. "I'm sorry," Hale said finally. Isaiah blinked. "Sir?" "I'm sorry. This should never have happened. Not to you, not to anyone, but especially not to you in front of our hospital after you saved someone's life." Isaiah felt tears coming again. This time he couldn't stop them. "I did everything right," Isaiah whispered. "I went to school. I worked hard. I became a doctor. I thought that would be enough. I thought I'd be safe. You should be. But I'm not. I'll never be. Because no matter what I do, some people will only ever see one thing when they look at me." Hale turned to face him. "I know, and I know saying sorry isn't enough. But I want you to know something. I'm not letting this go. Those officers acted on racial profiling. They ignored evidence. They humiliated you. And I'm going to make sure there are consequences." Isaiah shook his head. "It won't matter. It never does. Maybe, but I'm still going to try, because you're one of mine, and I protect my people." They sat in silence for a moment. Then Hale started the car. "Let me take you home. I need to go back to the hospital, check on my patient." Hale smiled slightly. "That's why you're one of the best." When they pulled into the hospital parking lot, Isaiah expected it to be empty. Shift change was over. It was late, but there were people everywhere, doctors, nurses, staff, standing in the parking lot holding candles, waiting. Isaiah climbed out of the car, confused. "What is this?" Dr. Okafor stepped forward. "It's for you." "I don't understand. We heard what happened. We couldn't just go home. We couldn't just pretend everything was normal." Dr. Okafor's voice was thick with emotion. "You're family, Isaiah, and family shows up." Sarah, the nurse, came forward next. "We're so sorry. We should have done more. We should have—" Isaiah pulled her into a hug. "You tried. You spoke up. That took courage." One by one, his colleagues came forward, hugging him, telling him they were sorry, telling him they'd stand with him. And then Destiny's mother appeared. She walked up to Isaiah with tears streaming down her face. "My daughter's alive because of you. And they arrested you. I saw it. I watched them treat you like you were nothing. And you're everything. You saved my baby." Isaiah couldn't speak. She took his hands. "I called the news. I told them everything. I told them you're a hero, and I'm going to make sure everyone knows what happened here today." Isaiah felt something shift inside him. Not healing. Not yet. But maybe the beginning of it. So what does all this mean for us today? Let's talk about what this story really reveals. Because this isn't just about one doctor and one arrest. This is about something much bigger, much deeper. This is about the invisible weight that black professionals carry every single day. Think about it. Isaiah did everything society tells us to do. Education, hard work, excellence. He earned respect. He earned his position. He saved lives. But none of that protected him. Because in America, there's no degree high enough, no title prestigious enough, no achievement great enough to shield you from racism. You can be a doctor, a lawyer, a professor, a CEO, and you'll still get followed in stores, questioned by security, pulled over by police, Arrested in your own hospital parking lot, that's the exhausting reality. Every black professional knows the feeling. Working twice as hard to get half as far, constantly proving yourself, never being able to relax, always wondering if this will be the day someone sees your skin before your credentials. Isaiah. His story exposes something we don't talk about enough: the trauma of being first, or only. He was one of the few black surgeons at his hospital. That meant he carried extra weight. He had to represent, had to be perfect, had to absorb microaggressions with grace, had to smile when patients questioned his qualifications, had to pretend security following him was normal, and even then, it wasn't enough. The officers who arrested Isaiah weren't necessarily evil people. They probably went home that night and had dinner with their families. Maybe they even felt a little bad about the mix-up. But that's the problem. They saw mix-up. Isaiah experienced trauma. They saw doing their job. Isaiah saw his dignity stripped away in public. This is what people mean when they talk about systemic racism. It's not always burning crosses and hate speech. Sometimes it's just assumptions, biases, the automatic suspicion that follows black bodies through white spaces. Someone called the police because they saw a black man in a parking lot and assumed crime. The officers responded to a vague description and saw Isaiah as a threat instead of a healer. The system allowed them to ignore his badge, his scrubs, the blood of his patient on his sleeve, because the system wasn't designed to see him as human first. Now let's talk about something equally important: what happened after. Martin Hale's response. A lot of people in his position would have handled this differently. They would have called their legal team, protected the hospital's reputation, made quiet statements about learning opportunities and policy reviews. Hale got in his car and drove to the police station. Why does that matter? Because allyship isn't just about diversity statements and training seminars. It's about action. It's about using your power, your privilege, to intervene when you see injustice. Hale was a white CEO who could have stayed comfortable, but he chose discomfort. He chose to make noise, to show up, to say, "Not on my watch, not to my people." That's what real allyship looks like. It's messy, it's uncomfortable, it requires sacrifice, but it's necessary. And notice what else happened: the community response. Those doctors and nurses didn't have to gather in the parking lot. They didn't have to hold candles and wait for Isaiah. They could have gone home, felt bad about it, talked about it in break rooms, but they showed up. They bore witness. They said, "We see you. We believe you. We stand with you." That kind of solidarity is powerful, because racial trauma isn't just healed by apologies. It's healed by community, by people who show up even when it's hard, who speak up even when it's uncomfortable. And Destiny's mother, calling the news, telling the story, refusing to let Isaiah's arrest be swept under the rug, that's advocacy. That's using your voice for someone who saved your family. These small acts of solidarity can change the culture of an entire institution. But here's the harder truth we need to face. Isaiah shouldn't have needed any of that. He shouldn't have needed his CEO to rescue him, his colleagues to validate him, a grateful mother to defend him. He should have just been able to get clothes from his car and go back to work. The fact that we're celebrating people doing the bare minimum, believing a black doctor when he says he's a doctor, shows how broken the system is. We've normalized black people having to prove their humanity over and over again. We've accepted that they'll be questioned, suspected, and arrested even when they're literally saving lives. And that's not okay. This story also reveals something about the weight of representing. Isaiah felt like his arrest reflected on every black doctor, every black professional. That's a burden white people never carry. When a white doctor makes a mistake, people say, "That doctor made a mistake." When a black doctor makes a mistake, or even when they're falsely accused, people wonder about the whole race. That's not fair, but it's real. And it means black professionals carry the weight of representation everywhere they go. They can't just be individuals. They're always symbols, always representatives, always being watched. That's exhausting. So what do we do with this story? First, We believe black people when they tell us about their experiences. We don't dismiss, we don't minimize, we listen and we act. Second, we examine our own biases. Would you have called the police if you saw Isaiah in that parking lot? Would you have questioned his credentials? Would you have assumed the worst? Third, we show up, like Hale did, like those doctors and nurses did. We use our voices, our privilege, our power to intervene when we see injustice. And fourth, we push for systemic change, better training, accountability, policies that protect people like Isaiah instead of criminalizing them. Because this story, it's happening everywhere, every day, in hospitals and law firms and universities and corporations. Black excellence is being handcuffed and dragged away while wearing badges and degrees and suits. And we can't just feel bad about it. We have to do something. Before we wrap up, there's one final truth you need to hear. 3 weeks after his arrest, Isaiah Bennett stood in front of a hospital board meeting. He'd been asked to speak about what happened, to help the hospital understand, to be part of the solution. Part of him didn't want to do it. Part of him was tired. So tired of explaining racism to people who should already understand. Tired of being the teaching moment, the cautionary tale. But another part of him knew this was bigger than his comfort. So he stood up, and he spoke. "I became a doctor because I wanted to save lives," Isaiah began. "I wanted to be the person who showed up when everything was falling apart, who stayed calm in the chaos, who gave people hope when they had none left." The board members leaned forward, listening. But on that day in that parking lot, I needed saving. And I couldn't save myself. Because the people who were supposed to protect me saw me as a threat. The badge didn't matter. The scrubs didn't matter. The years of education and sacrifice didn't matter. All that mattered was the color of my skin. Isaiah paused, gathering his thoughts. "I want to be clear. This isn't just about me. This is about every black employee in this hospital who's been followed by security, every black doctor who's had their credentials questioned, every black nurse who's been mistaken for an aide, every black janitor who's been treated as invisible." He looked around the room. "We talk about diversity. We put up posters. We have seminars. But what are we actually doing? What changes when someone like me, someone you claim to value, gets arrested on your property for the crime of existing?" The room was silent. "Here's what I need you to understand. I love this job. I love this hospital. I love saving lives. But I shouldn't have to risk my own dignity, my own safety, my own freedom to do it. None of us should." Martin Hale stood up. "What do you need from us?" Isaiah took a breath. "Accountability. Training that actually matters. Policies that protect us. And allies who don't just show up after something terrible happens, but who work to make sure it never happens in the first place." The board approved every recommendation Isaiah made that day. They implemented new protocols with law enforcement, required bias training for security, created a reporting system for discrimination, established a task force led by Isaiah and other staff of color. It wasn't perfect. It wouldn't fix everything. But it was a start. Months later, Isaiah was back in the trauma bay. Another emergency, another life on the line. He moved through the choreography of saving someone, fast, precise, focused. His team worked around him like a well-oiled machine. When it was over, when the patient was stable, Isaiah stepped back and took a breath. Dr. Okafor appeared beside him. "Beautiful work." Isaiah smiled. "Just doing my job." "More than that. You're healing this place, not just the patients, the whole hospital. What you started after your arrest, it's changing things. People are talking, listening, learning." Isaiah nodded slowly. "I didn't want to be that guy, you know? The one who has to speak up, who has to fight. I just wanted to be a doctor." "You are a doctor, one of the best. But you're also a leader now, whether you wanted it or not." Isaiah thought about that for a long time. Being a leader wasn't what he'd signed up for, but maybe it was what he needed to become, not just for himself, For all the black kids who dreamed of being doctors, for all the black professionals fighting to be seen, for everyone who'd ever been handcuffed while wearing their dignity like armor. That evening, Isaiah stopped by Destiny's room. She was recovering well, laughing with her mother, making plans for the future she almost didn't have. When she saw Isaiah, her face lit up. "Dr. Bennett, how are you feeling?" "Good, really good. My mom told me what happened to you, after you saved me." Isaiah shifted uncomfortably. "You don't need to worry about that." "No, I do." Destiny's voice was serious now. "You saved my life, and then they tried to destroy yours. That's not right." "No, it's not. But you didn't let them break you. You fought back. You made them listen." She smiled. "That's like saving lives, too, just in a different way." Isaiah felt something warm spread through his chest. Maybe she was right. Maybe he was saving lives in more ways than one now. As he walked out of the hospital that night, Isaiah paused in the parking lot. The same parking lot where he'd been arrested, where his world had crumbled, where everything changed. He looked up at the building, at the lights in the windows, at all the life happening inside those walls. This was still his hospital, his calling, his purpose. What happened to him was wrong, traumatic, unfair, but it didn't define him. He was still Dr. Isaiah Bennett, still a healer, still a fighter, still standing. And that was enough. Here's the truth that nobody tells you about stories like this. They don't have perfect endings. Isaiah didn't get an apology from the officers who arrested him. The system that failed him is still broken. Racism didn't end because one hospital made some changes. But something did shift. Isaiah found his voice. His community found solidarity, and people who'd never thought about these issues before started paying attention. That's not redemption. But it's movement, and movement matters. Because every time someone like Isaiah stands up and says, "This isn't right," it makes it a little easier for the next person. Every time allies like Martin Hale use their power to intervene, it shifts the culture. Every time communities gather in parking lots with candles, it says, "You're not alone." That's how change happens, not in one big moment, but in 1,000 small acts of courage. 1,000 voices refusing to stay silent. 1,000 people choosing solidarity over comfort. Isaiah's story is one of millions. Black doctors, lawyers, teachers, engineers, artists, all of them navigating spaces that weren't built for them. All of them fighting to be seen as human first. All of them carrying weight that shouldn't exist. But they keep showing up. Keep healing, keep teaching, keep building, keep dreaming. Because that's what strength looks like. Not perfection, not invincibility, but persistence, resilience. The refusal to let injustice have the final word. So the next time you hear a story like Isaiah's, don't just feel bad. Do something. Speak up when you see injustice. Use your privilege as a shield for others. Listen to Black voices without defensiveness. Support policies that create real change. Show up for your colleagues, your neighbors, your community. Be the person who makes it a little bit easier for the next Isaiah. Because sometimes the hardest stories are the ones that heal us all. If they inspire us to be better, to do better, to build a world where doctors can get clothes from their cars without fear, where excellence is recognized regardless of melanin, where everyone can just exist without having to prove their humanity. That's the world Isaiah is fighting for. Every time he walks into that hospital, every time he puts on his scrubs, every time he holds someone's heart in his hands and brings them back to life, he's saving more than patience. He's saving hope. And that's the most powerful medicine of all.